To our February the 2nd council meeting, West Perth Council meeting, official groundhog council meeting. Just before we get started with our meeting, I would ask council and our guests, if they so wish, they bow our heads for a moment of silent reflection. Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. Is there any additions or deletions? No, we're good. Okay, I realize it is a fairly short agenda to start with. So if there's no additions or deletions, then a recommendation here is that we accept the agenda as presented. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Duck, seconded by Councillor Fournier. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? Okay, don't see any hands going up at this time. I guess if you find yourself treading in hot water later on, you can declare it at that time. We have a number of items on the consent agenda. Other than 4.4, and we have Phil here to go over the work plan and budget, Phil Beard for the Maitland Conservation Authority. So we'll pull that one out and we're going to deal with it separately. But is there anything else other than that you would like a little more detail on, or like pulled and dealt with separately? And I don't see any hands going up. So we will, I guess the motion would still stand. We just take the
with the for removed.
yeah. Okay, so the recommendation is that we accept consent items 4.1 to 4.8 for information, and the minutes of the January 26th regular council meeting being adopted with the exception of 4.4. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Okay, which brings us to 4.4. So Phil, come on up. Go ahead. Yes, you can join them. Sure, sure. The floor is yours.
It's always kind of weird speaking from this position rather than my regular seat. We'll be, sorry, Phil, I don't seem to have the first page. Thank you. Minor snafu. Thank you for the opportunity to review Maitland Valley Conservation Authority's draft 2026 work plan and budget. In your meeting packet, you will have noticed a letter from our chair, Ed McGuigan, along with Maitland Valley Conservation Authority's 2026 work plan, priorities, and budget. The work plan and budget has been developed based on the services and programs agreement that we have with all of our member municipalities. The agreement and work plan focus on strengthening MVCA's capacity to improve the health of forest, soil, and water throughout the watershed. We're going to be, well, he's the expert. He's going to be highlighting the major priorities that MVCA is planning to undertake in 2026. We'd also like to note that we are celebrating our 75th anniversary this year, which is kind of exciting. But before we review the priorities, I'd like to outline basically the vision, the mission, and the ends of the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. The vision is that we're working for a healthy environment. That's pretty simple. There's a lot of us here on conservation authorities, and we all understand that goal. We're providing leadership to protect and enhance water, forest, and soils, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen what happens to some of the rivers around here. Sometimes you get the sludge from like the dam 10 kilometers down the river in some summers, and it's not a pretty sight. So obviously there's a lot of work to do. And the ends that we have are to protect life, property, and prevent social disruption from flooding and erosion hazards, which actually there's a number of interesting things on that note, because with Lake Huron eroding into the bluffs of Lake Huron eroding into the lake so much faster these days, there's actually some urgency to dealing with issues of erosion as well. We're also, one of our other ends is to protect water and related resources for present and future generations, and to protect and expand natural areas. Now, Corporate services priorities to focus on the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks proposal to consolidate conservation authorities. We will be advocating the ministry to work with the Association of Municipalities, Conservation Authority Ontario, and other stakeholders to develop an implementation strategy that has a greater chance of working than the ministry developing a strategy on their own. We'll also be focusing on finalizing services and program agreements with all the municipalities in the watershed. And last but not least, we have organized a number of activities to celebrate our 75th anniversary. I will now turn the presentation over to Phil Beard, General Manager, to review the draft priorities for each service area and draft budget.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew.
Come back up for closings.
And I'm not going to hit every point. I'm sure you've had a chance to take a look at our work plan that's in here. So I'll just hit the highlights. I'll start with flood and erosion safety. One of the major things we'll be doing this year is developing a watershed hydrology model so that we're better able to forecast how and when major runoff events will impact communities that are located in flood-prone areas. And as Andrew mentioned, we're doing a coastal resilience strategy with our 3 shoreline municipalities, Central Huron, Asheville, Colborne, Wawanosh, and the town of Goderich. There's $750 million worth of development located in hazardous areas along our section of Lake Huron. And we're working with them to help them identify how to deal with development located in areas subject to bluff collapse, gully erosion, and shoreline erosion, as well as to identify where it's safe to direct future development along the Lake Huron shoreline. In terms of watershed health, we've completed a health assessment of the forests in the watershed, as well as interviewed many landowners who own woodlots. Our next step is to share what we've learned with the forest conservation staff in each county, as well as the Ontario Woodlot Association. So we do plan to attend the county's meeting here on February 12th, where they'll be discussing the forest conservation bylaw. We're also finished the first phase of our aquatic health assessment. We will continue to assess the health of rivers and streams in the watershed. This year's work will focus on the health of life living in our rivers and streams, and the findings from this work will help us focus our watershed restoration efforts. In terms of watershed stewardship, the focus of this work is to help landowners keep soil and nutrients on the land and out of watercourses and Lake Huron. The key systems that we're focusing on are promoting cover crops, rural stormwater management systems, and restoring buffers along watercourses. In terms of conservation areas, the big thing that'll be happening this year is we're constructing an outdoor pavilion at the Wawanosh Valley Conservation Authority to replace the Nature Center building, which was torn down a few years ago. And the Maitland Conservation Foundation raised $160,000 so that we can build this, so there'll be no cost to the municipal cost apportionment. Turning to our budget, one of our key priorities is to ensure that Maitland Valley has a stable financial base so that we can fund the services and programs that we've agreed to provide in our agreement with all our member municipalities. This includes both staffing and critical infrastructure. We're phasing in the stabilization or the costs of stabilization over 5 years. We're also phasing in a salary and benefits review that we did back in 2022. For the past 2 years, we identified that we would need to increase the apportionment by $175,000 per year. Actually, we identified it was over $200,000, but the members said that they could only accept $175,000. So 2026 will be the last year for that level of increase. The projected cost apportionment increase for 2027 is $128,000. So it'll go down appreciably. And Maitland Valley develops a 3-year work plan and budget forecast that we update every year. We've discovered, as I'm sure municipalities have, that it's very difficult to plan more than 3 years in advance due to the uncertainty with what projects will be funded and what funding changes we might hear from, or regulations we might hear from other levels of government. Project funding helps us to fund our operating budget, as well as to save money for infrastructure projects so that we don't have to use a special cost apportionment. So if we can charge our permanent staff to projects that are funded by the province or the federal government, then we can put that money aside to help fund infrastructure that we need to construct without doing a special levy. Because we aren't eligible for most of the infrastructure funding that the province provides for some reason. Maitland Valley's operating budget will be 3.4 million for 2026, and our project's budget will be approximately 1.1 million. The impact of the proposed cost apportionment increase will have on West Perth is an increase of $789 over the 2025 apportionment. And just before I let Andrew do the closing remarks, I was just thinking on the way down that we have 21 permanent staff right now and 5 contract staff. And in 1995, we had 21 permanent staff. So basically what's happened over the last 30 years is the funding that the province used to put in, which was 85%, has basically been replaced by the funding we get from service fees, donations, and the municipal levy. But it's taken us 30 years to replace that funding. And yet the province is now telling us that we're not doing things fast enough or good enough. And they're saying that's why they need to do this review, which I find a little frustrating. Anyway, that's my only commentary I'll make, but that thought came to me on the way down. And I guess because I've been around 46 years, I've seen the time when the province was a real partner and they provided 85% funding for rural conservation authorities, 50% for urban. And now their funding is less than 3%. Anyway, I won't go any further than that. I'll turn it over to Andrew to do some closing remarks.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address council this evening. We look forward to hearing your feedback, and we'll also like to invite representatives from council and staff to attend our annual meeting on February 18th, being held at the Blythe Memorial Hall in Blythe, basically, starting at 2 p.m. It will be the kickoff for our 75th anniversary, and it's kind of fun actually going to annual meetings for conservation authorities. Always lots of interesting speeches. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for either one of the gentlemen? Or I'm just thinking more for Phil. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, your worship. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Andrew, for the presentation. Phil, are you able to expand on the comment you made about the infrastructure? Maitland Valley is not able to, or seems to not be eligible for infrastructure funding. You're referring to the WECI funding, or which funding?
No, we built a new workshop behind our office so that all our vehicles could be inside. And we refurbished an old pole shed that we built in 1974. There was no provincial funding that we were eligible for to do that. So over probably a 20-year period, we were able to create savings in our operating budget that we could put aside to pay for that building, which I think was about 180,000, and then about another 100,000 to refurbish the pole shed. But that's the way we seem to have to look after our infrastructure, which we got it done. It looks great, and it certainly is much better to be able to keep the vehicles inside. But it just would be nice if the province could be a little more helpful around things like that. You know, the WECI funding is great. There's $5 million, and there's probably a few $100 million worth of water and erosion control infrastructure across the province that needs to be looked after. So $5 million doesn't go very far.
One follow-up, if I could. You mentioned that going back to the capital investment for the buildings, you drew that from the operating budget. Did you have to, I'm not aware if you had to cut services, but did you have to delay or curtail any operational services in order to divert that money into the capital work?
No, the way it worked is if we got a federal or provincial grant to do a project, we could charge that permanent staff time to that project, which created savings in our operating budget. And then we would put that money aside in our accumulated surplus for working capital to do infrastructure. That's the way we did it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Phil? Okay. Do thank you for coming down. And I responded today for the annual meeting, so it's always worked out in the number of years that I've been mayor that I've always had something else on the same day as the annual meeting, but I looked and this year it's open, so I plan on being there unless unforeseen circumstances such as weather or something happen, but yeah.
That would be great because it is our 75th anniversary, and despite all the other things that are going on, we plan to celebrate. We've
Yeah,
got lots
no,
of good things to celebrate.
Yeah,
So
no, it's an opportunity and something to celebrate for. So I think that's great. So anyways, thank you very much, Phil. We appreciate you coming down tonight.
thank you.
All right, moving on, I neglected to mention that we're short a couple members tonight. Councillor Feltz and Councillor Vink are off on leave. I think it's vacation, but I'm not sure. I believe that's what it is. And our deputy clerk and our CAO are both away. So we're kind of on a skeleton crew here tonight. So. Oh, okay, sure. If you got something there? Okay, yeah, you have a motion to deal with Phil, then that's fine.
I do, yes, through the chair. I think a motion that council endorse the 2026 draft work plan and budget would be in order. Thank you.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Duck, or moved by Councillor Duck, sorry, seconded by Councillor Harold. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. Very good. Thanks, James. Okay, moving on, we don't have a public meeting for anything tonight, and we don't have, we've got the only delegation that we had. Brings us down to reports, and the first report is the Baker Municipal Drain for a minor improvement. And we do have Thomas Jackson from K-Smart and Associates here. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Thomas, and you can walk us through that report. Do we need Avery's help here?
So I'm just trying to make sure I can get the clicker to work before I start. You only go one way. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm pleased to present this K-Smart Associates report on the Baker Drain minor improvement. This report for the Baker Drain was initiated in 2025 under the relatively new section of the Drainage Act 78.5, or the minor improvement section. And this is a newer section that the act underwent, that came up with after revisions to the act. And the main distinction is the minor improvement act, the minor improvement project deals with a single landowner and work that is contained within one land rather than the classic municipal drain where the whole watershed is involved. So that means that the cost is assessed to the single landowner who initiated the project. So the one landowner pays for the entirety of the project. In this case, Mr. Hatchler is looking to relocate the Baker Drain that cuts across his property, as shown on the slides there. And the main reason for the relocation is he is an organic farmer. So his current farming applications would be much improved with the relocation, and it would be a much more efficient operation. So after being appointed and holding an on-site meeting for the minor improvement, there are 7 criteria that need to be met under a minor improvement project. They're all in the report, but to summarize quickly, the activity must occur on a single property. It's paid for by the initiating landowner. The work has to be able to be completed with access from that property. The work will not change the way that the drain functions or is maintained. There is no enclosure of the drainage works, and it does not take place in a wetland. So in order to address the request, this report proposes the following minor improvements, which is constructing 738 meters of new ditch and filling in the old ditch, as well as installing about 500 meters of 375 millimeter to 300 millimeter plastic tile to act as a header to pick up his existing tiles that outlet into the Baker drain. There is also riprap protection at any curves along the new drain to protect for future erosion, as well as a riffle structure. And now shown is the estimated cost. So the estimated cost for construction is just under $200,000. The total engineering estimate, including the report, meetings, and estimated costs for construction supervision, is $63,000, which brings the total cost to be $270,000. And with grant, which is anticipated and assumed to be applied to this project, the cost will be $180,000. Again, all paid by the initiating landowner. So that's all I have to present. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Any questions with regards to this drain, the Baker drain? Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, your worship, through you, Thomas. I guess 2 questions. I couldn't tell from the layout drawing, like what size or what acreage is involved with that piece, that smaller piece of land that would be, or that's outlined by the pink hatching in the drawing. How many acres is that? Is there an idea or an estimate? Just curious what the size is.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. There's no definite, I don't have a exact acreage for you. The ditch is being replaced with the same size ditch. So the red hatching there is the ditch that's to be filled in. So the red just indicates the area of fill. Well, I guess, no, the red's an area of cut, and that's due to this overflow swale that's going to be maintained along the existing ditch. And green is an area of fill. So the ditch is being replaced with a like ditch, so there's no loss of acreage through this construction.
Okay, I'll move on to my other question. In the report under engineering costs, I'm just curious how, like, report preparation 47,000 and construction phase services 15,000. Can you give an estimate of how many hours were required for report preparation and how many hours would be required for the on-site construction phase services?
So for the report preparation, that's close to my actual cost spent preparing the report. I don't have an exact amount of hours that took. There was that dealt with a lot of consultation with DFO and the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority to be within their guidelines for working within water. And for the construction phase services, that estimates that construction will take about 2 weeks with a part-time inspector. And I'm hoping that we end up billing below that.
Okay, so no computation of hours then thus far.
So I don't have that information on me.
Thank you.
The original parcel, I assume, is 100 acres, like it would be a 100-acre lot, I would think. but they're laid out either in fifties or hundreds, and I think that looks like 100. So the actual area drained would be basically that 100-acre parcel, or maybe a bit less, I'm not sure, but that should be the acreage that's there. So yeah, we've just moved it from angleways across the field to go along the fence line. And that's what the owner wanted, so if he's happy with what he's got, then I guess that's great. Any other questions for Thomas on this? If not, then we do have a recommendation here that the municipality of West Perth accepts the report dated December 23rd, 2025 from K-Smart Associates Limited for the Baker Municipal Drain, P. Hackler, minor improvement, and that the council provisionally adopt the engineer's report for the Baker Municipal Drain, P. Hackler, minor improvement by giving first and second reading to bylaw number 15, 2026. Moved by Councillor Chessel, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. Last call. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. And thank you, Thomas. Okay, moving on, we do have correspondence as Mr. Beard indicated about the annual meeting for the Maitland Conservation Authority. And that's basically the only correspondence we have. So the recommendation that I have here is that the municipality of West Perth accept the correspondence as information. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Bylaw number 15, being a bylaw to provide for the drainage works in the municipality of West Perth and the county of Perth, the Baker Municipal Drain, P. Hackler, minor improvement 2025. And the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth give first and second reading to bylaw 15, 2026. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Harold, Councillor Foster. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? You didn't have a discussion, did you, Andrew? No, sorry, I moved fairly fast there. Okay, announcements are fairly straightforward there. There's a number of community events there. I think the next main one is our council meeting on February the 17th, because the 16th is Family Day, so we're meeting on the Tuesday then. Councillor Fournier.
I just wanted to briefly, it's not on the agenda as an upcoming event, but me and Logan Brand have recently organized a West Perth Community Coat Drive to gather cold weather gear for the unhoused in the area. There's information up on the bridge sign about that. We currently have 5 drop-off locations here in Mitchell at the moment. So if you guys care to check that out, just check out West Perth Community Gardens on Facebook, and that has all the information there.
Okay, thank you. All right, no notices of motion. Any other business at this time? We do not need a closed session this evening. So the next item then is the confirmatory bylaw, and it's bylaw number 16, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a first and second time the second day of February. Mover and seconder for first and second reading. Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Fournier. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. And then bylaw 16, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a third and finally passed the second day of February. Third reading, mover and seconder, Councillor Harold, Councillor Foster, seconds. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And then finally, motion that the municipality of West Perth adjourn their council meeting at 7:28. Moved by Councillor Duck, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. We did it, Diane.